Okay, so sorry about the delay. We had some technical difficulties, but thank goodness our IT director is in the building and she helped us out and bailed me out big time. So with that being said, please close the back door when you get an opportunity and please silence your cell phones. Okay, good evening, everyone. We are on the record. Today is Monday, the 7th day of November. This is a City Council caucus meeting of the Jersey City Municipal Council. We had a scheduled 4 p.m. start, and due to the technical difficulties, the time on my cell phone is showing 4:22 p.m. May we have a roll call for the commencement of this caucus? Councilperson Ridley.
Here.
Councilperson Prinzary.
Here.
Councilperson Baggiano.
Here.
Councilperson Saleh.
Here.
Councilperson Solomon.
Here.
Councilperson Gilmore.
Present.
Councilperson DeGise.
Here.
Councilperson Rivera.
Here.
And Council President Waterman. We have 9 council members in attendance at 4:22 p.m. On behalf of Council President Waterman, in accordance with New Jersey Public Laws of 1975, Chapter 231, the Open Public Meetings Act, also known as the Sunshine Law, adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by the posting on the bulletin board of the first floor of City Hall, the annual notice, which is the schedule of meetings and caucuses of the Municipal Council for the calendar year 2022 and filed in the office of the City Clerk on Thursday, October 28th, 2021. In addition, at its time of its preparation, the agenda of this meeting was similarly disseminated on Friday, November 4th, 2022 at 4 p.m. to the Municipal Council, Mayor, Business Administrator, Corporation Council, and local newspapers, and posted on the city's website, so I can certify as to our total compliance with the Sunshine Law. Please be advised that we are now live streaming all council caucuses and meetings through Microsoft Teams. The links are located on the website and also on the City Council agenda. Council President, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Good afternoon. First one, Director Kears. Try to move as quick as possible.
Good evening, President Waterman, members of the council. I have 2 items before you tonight. Resolution 22-795, 10-16. This resolution will authorize renewal of a contract to Continental Hardware Incorporated to provide various building materials and supplies for the Department of Public Works, Division of Buildings and Streets. Proposed contract would commence on November 13, 2022 and end on November 12, 2023. The associated contract shall not exceed $90,626.64.
Any questions? Go ahead.
Is this going to be within budget for?
Yes.
Okay.
It's renewal of the contract. It's the last renewal on a council.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Second item is Resolution 22-805, 10-26. Resolution will authorize the acceptance of a grant in the amount of $1,760,000 from the Department of Homeland Security and the New Jersey Office of Homeland Security and Preparedness under the Urban Area Security Initiative, UASI grant program. Acceptance of this grant will enhance the city's capabilities to prepare for and to respond to natural or man-made disasters.
Any questions? I said thank you.
Thank you.
Next one, Director Shea.
Good evening, Council President, President Pro Tempore, member of the councils. The only thing I have tonight is the resubmission of agenda item 10.33, resolution 22.812, resolution authorizing an award of a contract to SHI International Corp. For IXP Corporation completion of initial workshops, technology assessment, and gap analysis services for the Department of Public Safety, Division of Police, through the New Jersey Cooperative Purchasing Alliance, Bergen County Co-op. Pretty much it. It's in the amount of $213,085.11, and the funds are in capital.
Questions?
Can you speak more to the workshops? Is that for the existing staff or is that on the technology?
Well, what we're doing is, thank you for the question, ma'am. What we're doing is we're bringing them in. We've already started. This is the second phase. We're going to be doing workshops with all our existing personnel, but also with the end users, the police officers and different people on the other end, including people who have filed complaints about the service. We're going to be trying to figure out exactly where is the gap between what the public expects of us, what we're required to provide, and what, quite frankly, we're not reaching right now. So we want to identify that, identify problems, and see if we can fix them. The reason we want to do it now is we are moving this entire operation into the new public safety building. So the time is right if we have to change technology, change the way we do operations, to do it now concurrent with that move and set it up correctly. That's kind of why we would like to do it right now. So that's kind of the idea here. I don't know where it's going to go. I don't know if they have the option of recommending privatization. We've sent Director Moody down to Atlanta and to Princeton to see how that works. She would have to come and report to you if anybody would like to know what her report on that was. They could recommend changes in technology and using the current workforce, but retraining them to achieve the kind of cross-training that we've been trying to achieve for, quite frankly, the 10 years I've been here, to where we don't have fire dispatchers and police dispatchers. We have dispatchers. We don't have a supervisor at one level and a supervisor above them who refuses to do that job if somebody's not there. So they could recommend changes that we could do in our current workforce that could achieve that. Or they could recommend that our technology is the problem, that which I believe is part of the problem, that our fire side and our police side, which we all inherited, don't talk to each other. Technology, not people. The computers can't speak to each other and causes a gap where we have a potential for a dropped call, which we don't want. And we're giving them full disclosure over our disciplinary processes and everything else involving the workforce.
What happens if their recommendation is to say, I guess the city can't handle it within their capacity? Will the council still have oversight on if we should move towards their recommendation? How does that work?
Yes, this resolution just covers the analysis, the research, the technology recommendations. That would then go into a twofold thing. The technology itself under capital would be one vote because we plan on owning that no matter what we do with the workforce. I'll compare it to when we changed CCTV. We hired a company to do it for us, Millennium. You're all familiar with them, but we own the technology. So if their standards fall below what we require, we can remove them on a 30-day notice, turn the switch, and bring in either another company or run it ourselves. So that would be part one. The technology would be owned by the city and be ours. Part two, any recommendations as to the workforce would also, of course, have to come before the council for approval.
And so IXP is doing they're the ones that's doing the gap analysis?
Yes, they'll be doing not just the gap analysis, the technology analysis, the workshops, everything.
So what happened if their recommendation is to let them take over?
They could make that recommendation. They would then have to explain to us how it would provide a better service and how we would provide money. But I mean, every company that does these kind of things has the option of saying we'd like to bid on a future thing. That does not mean we're under any obligation to choose them over anybody else. The same thing happened. The closest comparison I can make is Millennium when we went out of all the old video systems and brought them in to do the new one. The first thing they did for us was the analysis of what was wrong. Then they put in a bid like anyone else with how they could fix it and do a better job. We're under no obligation to accept their bid over anybody else's.
I don't know what happened previously. I just know that it just seems like a conflict of interest. If I'm doing an assessment of something and my determination is to say this entity needs to be moved into a private arena while I happen to provide that service, then according to the letter of the law of a conflict, I mean, it seems that it can be a conflict of interest. And the reason why I say that, even moving past a conflict of interest, is I would just want to understand the nuance of what residents start making now versus what they would be making if the company took over. How do the benefits package look? How do all of that look? So I mean,
I think all of those questions would be, though, if they make a recommendation for this. I don't have those answers now. And one thing I have to say, we've dealt with this before. inevitably, if a company is qualified to come in and do the gap analysis kind of things we're doing, they are going to be in that business, or else they won't have the requisite knowledge to do the gap analysis that you do. So that comes in everything. It came when we had to train people. It came when we had to do cameras. That's just something for us all to be aware of if that's a suggestion and you end up voting on it.
Okay.
Okay. Are they, for these workshops, are they training the employees? Is that what's going to be happening? Because you know how we have Tomahawk comes in to train the police officers. Is IXP coming in to train any of these employees?
I doubt under this contract, this would be more the shortfalls, but it's a good comparison. The very first contract in 2013 that the city hired Tomahawk for was this, for our emergency service and our tactical unit, to find out, do we have shortfalls? Can we protect our citizens? And it was a pretty scathing report. And then when we were looking to fix it, they put in a bid along with other companies, and they won the bid. But our first experience with them was doing this type of a report on an area where we thought we had shortfalls. And that's kind of exactly what's happening here.
My concern is we're going to throw the baby out with the bathwater, and that we're sort of starting. Yes, we want to save money as a city, but I do want to be cognizant of the fact that we should try to fix the issues at dispatch and try and fix all these issues before, we entertain that road. And is that what IXP is going to be doing? Like, are they going to be able to supplement any of the gaps that we have in terms of staffing when it comes to dispatch? Because we know they're understaffed over there. Like, will they have additional staff? Like, do they provide that service for cities or?
Well, all they would be doing here, if they find shortfalls in staffing like you're describing, I'm sure they will, they would just include that in the gap analysis, that one of the gaps is a shortfall in staffing. And then we could decide, do we want to go forward with training our own people, maybe hiring outside trainers, using inside trainers? Why do we have that shortfall? Why for 10 years have we not been able to solve that shortfall through 4 different directors over there, including ones that we all find very competent, in many ways? They've had these same problems have persisted to the detriment of our citizens. So this would just be identifying those shortfalls, like I said before. Is it solely staffing? Is there some reason that's contributing to the staffing that is not immediately obvious to us, which I suspect might be the problem in some of this? So that's the kind of thing that they would be investigating and making recommendations under this contract on. Yes.
Are we also getting the best possible price? Because I've seen they've given lower assessments for other municipalities, like 100,000 versus what we're paying right now. There's no way they could do it any cheaper than this?
Well, this is the state contract price for all the services. I'm not sure how comparable those other contracts are, whether it's for exactly the same services. I don't know anyone else who's moved into a new building and asked to do a complete modernization and upgrade. But sir, if you'll send those to me, Tawana is the lead on this project. I'll have her do those comparisons. She's a great numbers person, and get back to you.
So Director, just to be clear, this is just phase 1, and this is just basically to highlight any type of problems that we may have in the communications department.
Yeah, I would go further. Yes, Councilperson, thanks for the question. Council President Pro Tempore. But I would go beyond highlight. We know we have the problems. We know we have the shortfalls and the gaps. We know we're falling short in the service we want to deliver to our citizens. This is, we're asking people who are doing this successfully in municipalities of the same size and others, and have done this in the past. I'll get back to the question, but we're asking them why. Get an independent person in here who has no loyalty to anybody and tell us why we are consistently falling apart here and haven't been able to fix it.
All the findings, it'll come back to us, correct? With the findings, come back to us.
Yeah, the findings will be reported to Director Moody, and I'm sure she'll be reporting them to all of you.
So on that note, what is the should we move forward? what is the anticipated timeline for them to do the study and the workshops and the surveys and get back to the city with their findings?
Yeah, a kind of like we did with the Millennium and with Tomahawk and them. I'm loath to tell them you have to have it by this time because I want them to do a thorough job, but they're aware of our timeline to open and move into our new headquarters, which I believe Director Moody is projecting for the beginning of next year.
Yeah.
So that imposes a timeline in and of itself. They'd have to get back to us fairly quickly so we could start working on the technology.
So then the anticipation is that this will all be completed in advance of moving into the new building?
It would have to be before we begin before we begin the purchase of the technology.
Okay.
So this is
So
more
wait, I'm
technology.
just curious here. Let me ask this question. Okay, so this will help us with the technology. So is a possibility though, that that building can increase, right? Based on this technology?
No, I think we're pretty comfortable that Director Moody told me she's pretty comfortable that she is in the range of
Okay,
funding
they
that's
are
been
in the
provided.
range. 'Cause I'm just, because I remember when we did that West District, it just kept coming back with asking for more money and more money and more money.
Yeah, you're 100% right, Council President, and we suffered through that together in 13,
Right.
14, where one company left and another came
Correct.
back and then they wouldn't do. We have been using the same contractors, the same people through this building from beginning to end. So no money will be spent on anything unless it's moving into that building and it's what we're going to use.
Okay.
Council, Business.
Yeah, at the last capital round, Council President, we issued money specifically for this based on initial cost estimates with a small contingency in it. So we won't.
Okay. Because I remember that West District.
So is this just for technology, a technology assessment and the gaps regarding?
Everything, technology assessment, workforce assessment, work rules assessment, discipline, how we can do it better, complaints against, complaints from our citizen against the services we're providing. It's to evaluate everything about the radio room, supervision, leadership, everything. They'll be interviewing me, Tawana, everybody.
I just don't want them to reverse engineer, like they have the solution in their head already, and then they want to reverse engineer the process as to how they're going to get to the solution, which would be privatization. I would rather if they had recommendations up until, that moment where it's privatization, they should have like, these are the trainings that you should do. These are some personnel staffing things that you should do. Maybe increase the salary, like all these different things that could be done before we get to, that point. We don't want that to be the inevitable answer. I want that to be the final and last, possible solution.
Understood.
I just think a company, that should be their final decision. You know what I'm saying? Because they should first look at how they can make the department better inwardly before they say, okay, we want to privatize this. I don't think we should even be having that conversation right now. We're privatizing. We need to see how we can fix it and cut down the time gap with the response, which is horrible. 911 response is horrible.
Yeah, I agree. And Director, like in that same vein, since it was brought up, the privatization, I don't want to jump the gun on that and say that that's definitely what they're going to do. But if we do get to that point, then I just want to make sure that our staff that's currently there, they still have jobs. That's my main concern with this whole thing.
I agree with you 100% that we're jumping the gun a little here.
Yeah.
Talking about that. However, I would say that when you bring in people to do an assessment like this, to tell them to take an option off the table isn't fair either. That part of what they're doing is telling us how we can make it better. So we want the good, the bad, the ugly. I'll share now, because we're 10 years out, when Tomahawk finished their first assessment of our emergency service unit, Council President Pro Tempore knows, their initial suggestion to us was you should shut it down if you're not willing to fix it.
Right.
Because you're facing that kind of liability at the level you're running at now. And we want that kind of honesty. We want them to be willing to throw every suggestion on the table. That's what we're paying for professionals. Second part of your question, ma'am, just like CCTV, which is the best example I can give, we decided that after we did the analysis that it could be done better without that unit, not a single employee lost their job. They were transferred into equivalent, equal or higher paying, equal status positions within, but matter of fact, I kept them all in the Department of Public Safety. So again, we're jumping the gun talking about it, but that's what we did there, and that's what we would do anytime somebody wanted to do that.
Thank you, Director.
Council President, while we have the Public Safety Director, we do have 3.5, which is a first reading ordinance. That's for first reading to introduce a bond act, the amount of $12 million to outfit the East District. Attached document was some of the preliminary sketches as well as cost estimates for that. So I figured while we have the director, he could just give us a brief overview or synopsis of what that'll look like.
Okay, the business administrator asked me this, and I apologize in advance. I do not have the exact addresses and things in front of me. But the bottom line is the East District, we are planning on moving the East District and all of the Jersey City Police Department's investigative functions to one of the new buildings that's being refurbished on the other side of 14th Street and the Holland Tunnel. We have been provided 2 huge floors. It's going to be that $1 a year lease until we own it, and the $12 million is for the build out. The first floor will be the East District, and the East District officers, supervisors, offices, rooms, community room, community meeting room, etc. The second floor will be completely investigations and will encompass, we're very excited, it'll encompass things we've wanted to do for a while that we were not physically able to do in the spaces we're in. For instance, we're going to have a separate entrance from a closed garage with a closed area for special victims, children, victims that we'd like to bring in without anybody being able to see them. Also, people arrested will be able to be brought into a garage and brought in without being exposed to people seeing them in handcuffs, et cetera, et cetera. It's one of the things we're kind of excited about, like the West District does now. You're driven in and you're not further embarrassed by people seeing you being led in handcuffs. We are having part of this 12 million will give us brand new identification procedure rooms where we can do the latest types of blind identifications to make sure that any identifications that are done to the standards expected of police investigations today, not to the way they used to do it 20, 30 years ago. We're also planning in that investigations room of having a special victims room where victims of special types of assaults or juveniles will be able to come in and interact with social workers, with the detectives and with the prosecutors in privacy and in a more comfortable atmosphere than just being sitting in a seat in a detective room. They didn't do it poorly in the past. They worked the best with what they had, but we can do it much better, and we're going to do it much better in this facility.
Director, you're making the mayor of Hoboken very happy. Why don't you just move it into Hoboken and stop it? It's 1.6 miles to Grand Street from 16th Street. And if there's an emergency and the car has to respond with the traffic today, somebody's going to get hurt, somebody's going to get killed, there's going to be a lot of problems. It does not belong on 16th Street. I've been involved with the police department for 40 years, and I've spoken to many, many cops over this past 2 weeks and people downtown. And the Ward E councilman should be very involved in this. This does not belong down on 16th Street. That puts 2 precincts in Ward D. The Ward E, the precinct should be down somewhere centrally located. I'm sorry, but after speaking to a lot of the cops and speaking to people downtown, they're furious.
Well, all I can say is we're aging out of the building we're in now. It's not sufficient size to accept any of these improvements or increases. That's a huge community growing up on the other side of the tunnel there that right now has nothing, over there. We'd like to put a firehouse over there too, quite frankly, if we could find a location to put it.
Hoboken will be very happy about it, Director.
They're not going to be, they're not going to be responding to Hoboken. And we also know once
Not the
roll call
point.
is over, they shouldn't be in that building anyway. They're supposed to be out on patrol in their area. It's 1.6 miles to a lot of places in this city. I'm very confident that we can maintain our response time.
Two precincts do not belong in one ward.
But you don't-
Belong somewhere downtown Jersey City.
That's a different.
Question.
Yeah, that's a different issue, sir. I have nothing to do with.
Do you guys, does the Jersey City Police Department police based off of the political lines that are drawn or the districts? Or is it just like East District, North District, and you have your own map for what?
Yeah, we just have the city divided in four, into east, west, north, and south. And if anything, down the road, we'd love to maybe make a central, with the four around them. But again, I'd rather get a firehouse on the other side of that thing first, if we're talking about things I want, as opposed,
Is there going to be any impact to the response time by moving over?
Of course there is.
No, because each car, we're still going to turn out the same number of cars. If anything, that East District, we may have to up their cars by one because of that whole new community being built over there where nobody used to live. But we're still going to have the same sector car lines. Each sector car is still going to have his same area of patrol exactly as it exists today, unless we create a new one for that new community that's being built.
Director, a precinct does not belong on 16th Street. The precinct belongs in the central part of Ward E. It serves Ward E. You're putting it into Ward D. As I said, the travel time from there to Grand Street and below is horrendous. And it's a shame. This was brought up years ago and was knocked down. And it's a shame that it's being brought up again now because there has to be a lot of politics involved in this with the developer.
There's going to be 10,000 new residents in that location in the next few years. There is already thousands, but they're slated to make more development over there. So there are people at 700 Grove Street that call Jersey City, and they don't know, the police may not know that they're inside Jersey City actually, because it's on the border. So I would like a precinct there because a lot of people aren't getting served on that borderline. My question is regarding more environmental sustainability, because it's in that location downtown, are there going to be underground water tanks to help mitigate any water issues? Are going to have trees along the, because there's probably going to be a lot of expensive equipment down there. Are we doing anything, for planning for flooding mitigation?
Councilman, I can get you some, are you talking about the new precinct?
Yes, the new precinct.
Yeah, so it's a building that already exists as part of a redevelopment deal that we got 2 floors as a community give back. So I can give you the specs of what this building already has and what our environmental impact would be. But the building's already built, we're just fitting out our space.
Can we add trees along the side if they don't impact public safety in order to, help mitigate any flooding issues? And
yeah, there may already be a plan. I'll double back on that with you.
We're putting expensive equipment there and a lot of resources into it. I just want to make sure we protect that investment.
Yes, sir.
You don't want to flood out. That's what he could say. Go ahead, James.
Yeah.
Director, why don't you
This
just...
is-
Wait,
all right.
let James go. Go ahead.
There's I think, more question for the administration on this. So just to make sure I understand it, the city is bonding 12 million to pay for this? Sorry, go ahead. I guess when it had come to us 2 council meetings ago to fund the contract, I had asked some subsequent follow-up questions about the city's responsibility versus the developers to pay for the build out. And it seems as if the answer we're being provided is that it's the city's responsibility. Can you say more about why that is? What's been written into the redevelopers agreements to kind of create that?
Yeah, I'll defer to the law department to give a memo on it, but my understanding from the law department and working with the JTRA is that the sole responsibility of the developer was to provide the space and that we would be responsible for the build out of it.
Okay, so what I would maybe suggest is we not vote on this for first reading on Wednesday without its law emails. I mean, I got a different email a couple of weeks ago, and obviously it's a lot of money from the city side. So when it's because it's legal stuff, I'd love to just hash that out internally. Obviously, just from a city perspective, I'd love for us to not have to pay for it. And if we do have to pay for it from a legal perspective, I think my follow-up questions to the JCRA would be, what didn't we do during the process to guarantee that the developer was going to do the build out? What was not written into the RDP, which is more of a planning document, or the RDA, to make sure that we are all aware of that so that it doesn't happen again in the future. Just because this is if you look, obviously, when this was first passed, we didn't know what the real estate market was going to look like, and we don't know what it looks like in the future. But this is a lot of units, no affordable in it. So we, obviously they are giving us the space, and that's valuable. They constructed it. It's worth something. They're not renting it out to retail or apartments. But I'd love for us not to be on the hook for this.
Okay, yeah, I'll schedule something as a follow-up with the law department and JCRA to get some of those answers.
Okay, great. Thanks.
What's happening with the old property? I'm just curious, if the precinct is going to move, where is that now? What will the city do with it? Will we sell it?
We haven't gotten there yet, Council
Yeah,
President.
the property consists of the building itself and the fairly large parking lot opposite Roberto Clemente Park. That would be returned to the city's general fund, I suppose.
Yeah, we don't have any development plans for that yet, Council President, rather. So we would just retain possession of it and work simultaneously on executing a new plan.
I mean, I think that would be a conversation because we're trying to save, and if it is available and the developer, he's not contributing anything, is there some type of negotiation we can do? I don't know, just with the parking lot, so we won't have to pay him. It's got to be a better deal. That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
It has to be a better deal. It just seemed like we always paying.
Take a look at it, Council.
We should find a way to monetize it, put charging stations, do something, I don't know.
I'm serious. It's got to be a better deal.
Or we could put another baseball field there.
Batting cages.
For real. That's what I'm saying. It's
cost
got to
me
be a
more.
better deal.
John, $12 million right now after the tax increases is a shame. We should be using that money for something else.
It's got to be a better deal. That's all we're saying. We just got to seem like if we can get a better deal, that's it. Because we do have property still. Okay?
Yes, Council President.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Council President. Thank you, council members.
McNair?
Good evening.
Good evening.
One resolution, 10.5. This is a resolution pursuant to the NJSA 40A 11-4.3, authorizing the use of competitive contracting to award a contract to conduct a full audit of the employee benefits program. We believe that this is necessary to ensure that anyone who's covered under the city's health insurance is in fact eligible for that coverage.
10.5.
10.5.
No, I think the audit is good because there might be some people who's not eligible, believe it or not. And I think so.
Council President and Council, so the way that the city works, obviously, because we're self-insured, we're paying per claim.
Right.
So we want to make sure that the eligible recipients are eligible for the claims, because if they're submitting bills, the city's liable for, we're not getting a contribution on it, and we're also paying it, so it's almost a double loss. So we do this annually. The way we do it is we verify if a spouse still exists, if a child's still remaining under the age of 26, and those different selective processes.
And after we finish this audit, will there be a way in which we can just do this every year? Instead of just waiting every 5 years, just do another audit. There's got to be a way that we have a system that, we can update with the employees every year to make sure they send, information in.
Yeah, I think the best way to do that for continuity is to do at random. We'll do samples, so it doesn't feel like any employees are feeling they're targeted, or, we'll do X amount per month on a continuous basis.
What happens to individuals who are not part of the plan, but let's say they were, and now the audit says, hey, you're not actually supposed to be part of the plan? Are they trying to retroactively claw back anything, or is it just like you terminate their health insurance? Like, what happens to those people?
Yeah, that would be the second phase. We'd send it to the law department and risk management, and they would pursue legal action.
Okay.
Especially if there's like a large procedure, like a surgery, risk management, we'll pursue it with their third party.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Follow?
Good afternoon, council members.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I'm here to read agenda item 10.14, resolution 22-793. This resolution allows community development to give the PERC homeless shelter $75,000 in our COVID CARES Act funding so they could operate the emergency overflow shelter program. So as you know, in the winter months, most of our homeless move from the street and they're looking for shelter to go indoors. This is going to allow PERC shelters to kind of hire more staff, have more resources, and just be prepared for the influx of people.
Have you seen a large amount of unhoused individuals this year versus previous years, or what's your assessment of the situation?
So according to HUD, actually, we just did the point in time count early this January. We're actually down about 7%. So it is less people. Yeah.
What about the youth?
Youth is not covered under PERC shelter, but there's other programs like the Covenant House that we're supporting, and they take care of those under the age of 18.
Okay, so we do support Covenant House.
I believe so right now. Yes, I would have to make sure, and then I could get
Yeah.
back to you on that.
Could you get back to me on that? Because I'm hearing that there's a lot of youth that is homeless too. And I heard that increased. So I want to see exactly what do we do for the youth?
Okay, you got it.
We got youth out here that's homeless. Okay,
Okay,
thanks a lot.
thank you.
Agnes?
Good afternoon, council members. I'm Agnes Theodosio, Program Director at Community Development. I have 6 resolutions to present it to you today. The first resolution on the agenda number 10.28, resolution number 22807. So this resolution is to authorize the execution of subrecipient agreement with Department of Infrastructure, our City of Jersey City Department of Infrastructure, for design of Fairmont Triangle Park. That's block 16.801, lot 11. Since there's no address, I'm giving you block and lot. So this project will provide additional public recreational space for local community of low to moderate income person. The amount that we would like to fund is $406,614.66. That's from CDBG federal funds for public facilities. Any questions?
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
On the budget side, this is both for this item and then there's similar items as well.
Yes.
It says unallocated CDBG money.
Correct. It's funds from 2021 that have not been allocated to projects.
So when the council reviewed the 2021 CDBG budget, where were these line items? Were they was there an unallocated pot of money, or is anything being shifted because it hasn't been spent? I really just want to know where the money's
not for these projects. Nothing has been shifted. There were money that were unallocated, not spent yet.
Okay, so it would have been in just public facilities, unallocated?
Correct, unallocated funds.
Okay, great. Could you just send us all, I know you weren't, I think, in the office at this time, but could you send us all the 2021 CDBG budget?
Sure.
So we can all just review it before we vote on these
Absolutely.
items? Thank you.
So are they developing the park? Is that what's happening?
I'm sorry?
Are they using these funds to develop the park, Triangle Park?
Yes, the park itself, it's a whole project. It's being developed. We would like to pay only for the design of the park. So there are a lot of fees, architectural and whatnot for the design, not for the actual construction of the park.
Got it.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions?
Next one.
Okay. Agenda number 1027, resolution 22-806. This is also for execution of an agreement with City of Jersey City Department of Infrastructure. This particular project is for the equipment and furnishing and building materials for Johnston Avenue Branch Library, which is located at 100 Monitor Street. The amount for this project is $246,311, and that's also CDBG PF Public Facility 2021 unallocated funds. Any questions? Okay. Agenda number 1030, resolution number 22-809. This is also a resolution for execution of the subrecipient agreement with City of Jersey City Department of Infrastructure as well. This is for design and renovation of protected bike lanes throughout the City of Jersey City. The amount is $1,900,000. It's also CDBG unallocated funds from 2021. We will be paying for, like I said, for the renovation and design and renovation of 6 segments, and I can list the segments. So first segment is on Newark Avenue. Then we have Grant Street, Grove Street, Columbus Drive, Grant Street, as well as Washington Boulevard.
1.9 million for bike lanes.
1.9 million, yes. It's
Isn't
just
that an awful lot of money, especially now?
It is, because they're the protected bike lane. This is actually coming out from federal funds, from CDBG federal funds.
Federal funds or state funds or city funds, it's all our tax.
Well, of course. I think the cost is because they're protected. They have those poles. They will look like the bike lanes like we have in the front of the building with the higher green podium and the poles on the side.
It's a lot of money for bike lanes.
Yeah, it's part of the master bike plan that was accepted for the City of Jersey City.
Is there a typo or is it, because I guess I'm assuming this must be grand, not grant?
Where do you see a typo?
In the purpose? Yeah, it's because they have Marion Boulevard and Washington Street, so that would be grand, right? Okay.
I don't know how you see bike lanes on Grant Avenue. There's hardly. any
Grant, yes.
cars, yeah.
Right.
And I think the council people whose wards these bike lanes are being put in should be notified. Some of them were put up in my area, and I took a lot of heat from residents, and I was never notified that it was being done.
Okay.
What happens if we don't use these funds?
Well, there's a danger if we don't use these funds, they will be taken from HUD may take them away.
Will they reduce our allocation for the next
They
year?
may reduce our allocation as well.
Okay,
We do want to spend it by the end of the year.
thank you.
Okay.
Just for confirmation, council, the money has to be encumbered and spent by the end of the year. That's why
Right.
I was working with the council president to get these on.
That's right.
Okay, next it's agenda number 1029, resolution 22-808. And this is also with the Department of Infrastructure for the equipment, furnishing and building materials for the construction of the Joseph Connor Senior Center, which is located at 394 Central Avenue. And the amount that we are requesting is $345,126. So this is a conversion of existing municipal office into senior center. The good news about that center, that will be ADA compliant, so it will have appropriate accommodation for the people with disabilities.
Hasn't construction been being done up there at the Connor Center? Because I was up there 2 weeks ago and we couldn't go up to the second floor to have the party Halloween.
Right, as far as I know,
What's this additional?
Construction is coming along. We're just refunding them or paying for the equipment and furnishing. But as far as I know, they're working on it.
Is this Are they moving over to where parking authority is moving out from?
Yes, this is a relocation. Correct,
I'm excited for this.
yes.
He's excited for
The
this.
senior center. They deserve better, you know, so,
Sure.
this is definitely, I saw it when it was in the construction phase, so I'm glad to see it's, you know, moving along. There'll be satellite offices for, you know, council members as well, so I'm happy about that as well.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. Okay, resolution on the agenda number 10.10, resolution number 22-789. This is a resolution for unallocated funds to Angela Cares Incorporated. This is to acquire and build out commercial space on the ground floor of a building on 512 Ocean Avenue. And this is in the amount of $314,933.
Why are we giving them 314,000?
This is for acquisition and renovation of the area. The acquisition is in the amount of $200,000. The rest is for renovation and build out.
You don't get money from any other sources?
Yes.
We do. We do.
Seems like, you know, especially after this last tax increase, we're spending an awful lot of money. And I don't know about the other council people, but I'm getting numerous calls about the tax increases, and I'm sure the others are too.
Yes,
But we seem to be spending money like crazy.
This is grant money that has to be spent. That's
Right.
the only difference with this money.
Yes,
It
that's
has to
correct.
be spent, and it's grant.
Hey, John, these items were pulled before. Can you give us an update on, the logistics as it relates to why and then where we at now? And then subsequently, why the third one isn't being brought back?
Which one is that?
Yeah.
The one, so that's 1010, 1011, and I believe there was, I forget the other
Let's
resolution.
start with 1010. She's on 1010.
Yeah, resolution 22-789.
Correct.
That's Angela Cares. Why we pulled it and why we bring it back.
So the first
Contract had to
round
be
was for
done.
the entire facility, including the rent-controlled facility upstairs. We now mitigated it to only the area that Angela Cares is involved in. So
Correct.
they wouldn't own the facility, they would just own the first ground floor where the nonprofit entity participates. Just a reminder that a lot of these dollars go into Councilman Borgiano's point. A, they have to be spent, and B, they're for specific purposes. That's why the federal government allocates to them. They have to meet AMI benchmarks. They have to meet certain socioeconomic scales. So it's not like we could just take these dollars and buy fire trucks. No, they're specifically for seniors, low socioeconomic
Supportive services.
supportive services.
And that's what Angela Care does, supportive
Right.
social services, food and other basic needs for seniors and families in Jersey City. So the project does qualify for the location where it is.
Initially, the initial proposal was for the entire building. The
Right.
redrawn proposal is just for the bottom.
Correct. It's for one unit, which is the first floor where she operates out of. And
She doesn't own the whole building. That's why you had to.
Correct. The whole building is owned by Garden State.
It's
We have
Garden State.
provided initial funding for them to renovate the units. So there are 3 units. The bottom one, the where Angela Care, it's a commercial unit. There are 2 units on top. So once the project is in the closeout, which it is actually in the closeout period, these units have to be sold out. So Angela Cares will be sold out as a commercial unit for which we're providing the funding. And the 2 other units which are on top of Angela Cares, those are residential units which will be sold to affordable home buyers.
I want to confirm, you know, because Angela McKnight is an assemblywoman, you know, an esteemed assemblywoman for Jersey City. Everything was done above
Yes,
board.
conflict of interest form, everything was done by our legal person in-house. So yes, we're aware of that.
And the federal government does have oversight over the spending of these dollars, correct?
Yes.
Okay, just want to confirm.
Yes, we put it on the system of the HUD system, IDIS. They preview it.
Councilman, every year, any dollars that are spent go through a federal audit. and any dollars that were misappropriated or spent out of the criteria, the city's liable for, and we'd have to come back to council to ask for those dollars.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
No, just
I'm sorry,
oh, go ahead. Just a minimal change in the description. The location is now in Ward A.
Okay, I see, here's Ward F, okay, thank you.
So this question is, like,
Yes, it's A, it's not.
Ocean?
It's her ward. It's her.
I
Listen,
didn't know they cut the line.
512 Ocean Avenue.
yeah, she's correct.
so let me ask you a question. With these grants, would an entity like the Paco Senior Center, wouldn't they benefit for something like this? Can they be in, you know, what is it that they have to do? Because this is an organization that's been out for 55 years, and I don't think they benefited, you know, with anything from the city. So, you know, how can we put them in the target range so that they can qualify for something like this? Because this is a huge entity.
And there's application process. We go out with RFPs, home funds twice a year. The CDBG is usually open the application the entire year. And there are certain qualifications for any developer or person that wants to provide affordable units. And we have that on site, and I can, you know, send it to you as well.
Can Paco meet with what's it called, Community Development, Division of Community Development, so that they could understand the process and how to apply?
Yeah, and then in the rear view, I'll see if they did actually apply for anything.
Okay.
But community development always send out information when it's grant time.
That's right.
They always do. I just want that noted for the record. They always send that out.
Correct. We put public notice as well,
Yes.
advertising in the
Yes.
paper. We do the whole
do.
thing. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions on this resolution? Thank you. And the last resolution, agenda number 10.11, resolution 22-790. This is for a contract to Jersey City Housing Authority to acquire 450 MLK Drive. It's also called Web Apartments. The amount is for $215,000. So this is a project, it's really excellent project because the Jersey City Housing Authority will be taking over for Genesis, and they will have a total of 40 residential units where all of them, once they get approval from HUD and NJHMFA, they will be turned into federally subsidized public housing, and they will maintain the units as affordable units into perpetuity. This is a great project, great win for JCHA as well as us. And this is for $215,000, only acquisition funds.
What changed with this one, John? This was off and then back on too.
I don't think anything changed with this one. It was just the timing.
I don't think anything changed, Councilman. I think we just pulled them all as a clip.
That's correct.
Oh, okay.
That's correct. This is a really nice, strong project, and
So,
that's for a good cause.
so the other one with Team Walker haven't been rectified.
So that one is still being processed. There was some regulatory stuff that we were going through with that. So I could ask CDBG for an update to give to the council.
Any questions?
Just for the record, it was a paperwork obligation with the federal authorities, so it didn't have anything to do with Team Walker.
Any questions regarding Web Apartments?
Hope they better landlords.
Definitely.
Hope they better landlords.
Yeah.
I'm telling you. Keep an eye out, Agnes. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Hey. Jimmy?
Hey, boy.
Good evening, Council President. Good evening, Council
Hey,
members.
Jimmy, how you doing?
We're presenting item 10.34, Resolution 22-813. It's a resolution authorizing full-time municipal employees to receive health benefits consistent with Public Laws 2010, Chapter 2. This is just predominantly a house cleaning measure. We're going through a process. We're reviewing the handbook down at HR as we're updating and implementing some qualifiers on payroll. So I went through the process of reviewing some of the resolutions with my good friend Sean, and we just noted this is something that was needed to be done and corrected.
Are there any takeaways, like any updates that are, improvements to the manual that, you can speak on, or?
It's still under progress, Councilman. I don't want to be premature because there's an entire team that has to review it before we present it to the council, but we're making some good strides.
Yeah, one thing I could say, Councilman, is without getting into specifics, as he mentioned, a lot of clarity, right? Usually union contracts and negotiations over years, language becomes vague, either from their perspective or ours. So we're really trying to define those terms, and that's what we're looking to achieve.
Any questions?
Which one is this?
10.34.
10.34, okay, just checking.
Okay.
Thank you, James.
Okay, wait, you good, you said?
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you, thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night, everyone.
Jimmy, where should the East?
Gigi?
Good afternoon, Council President, members of the council. Just for the record, my name is Gigi Gasson, and I am the Division Director for the Division of Affordable Housing here in the city of Jersey City. Behind me, sitting in the second row, is Alexander McLean. He is the division's Chief Policy and Compliance Officer. So he's here just in case you do have any really deep questions about what I'm about to present. So it's item 10.12 on the agenda, and it is resolution number 22-791. It is requesting that the City Council approve the Division of Affordable Housing Regulations Manual, Chapter 188, which governs our division, and it is municipal code, requires that we provide this manual to the public and that we leave it in the city clerk's office. And it does require, because of the ordinance, it requires your approval to place it in the office and to share it with the public. It's pretty straightforward. The manual is complete and it's ready for to be displayed in the city council, in the city clerk's office. Do you have any questions about this process?
Yeah, Director, just a couple. I just maybe misunderstanding a couple things, but as the manual governs rent increases in affordable housing contracts, is there a limit to the annual increase that can happen under any of the contracts that are signed to the city if someone's living in an affordable unit?
Yes, so our affordable housing agreements, and just please keep in mind that this rent limit is very different from rent control. Right. Quite often we get confused with the tenant-landlord process for rent control buildings. The affordable housing agreement generally has a rent limit section in it, and we abide by the NJHMFA published numbers for those projects that came before our division. And under the Uniform Housing Affordability Control Regulations, which is the new framework under Chapter 188, we follow under the New Jersey Fair Housing Act, which is actually done now. We don't have any units online yet with this process, but it's done as a CPI. And it's a different number that's published from NJHMFA, but we use both numbers depending on where the building falls.
So for the buildings that moving forward, we can write the agreements on, does the UHAC process kind of create in essence, a cap, right? You can't raise rents more than X percent each year.
Yes, unlike NJHMFA though, which has an actual rent number, like $2,303, UHAC will have like an index, which is a percentage that you can increase only. So it doesn't have an actual number. So it'll be based on whatever rent you're paying currently, and it'll be a percentage increase for that. And I can share that published document with you as a follow-up.
Yeah, that'd be great. And I just, we've had, these are obviously the old agreements, but the people, AMI increases so much, and then someone gets a 10, 15% rent increase, and they say, well, I can't afford it anymore.
Right. Yeah, unfortunately, those are grandfathered into those agreements and those processes. But we hope, we have I can really, I can share some data with you. We have many, many units, probably upwards of 953 units coming online over the next couple of years. These will all hopefully fall under these new standards, which are going to be much more manageable for the residents of Jersey City.
Great. And then how does it work if you get a unit and then your income increases? You get a promotion, you get a new job, and then how do we handle that in again, moving forward prospectively?
Actually, the way we handle it even now is that if you go over, so what you're asking is if you go over income, for example, the unit is slated for someone who is between 50% to 80% of the AMI, and now suddenly they're making 120% of your area median income. So usually between 80 to 120% AMI, the rent becomes a function of their income. So the landlord can only charge 30% of their total household income in that bracket. Then after that, we have surcharges that they have to pay back into the trust fund, and we can send you the language from the agreement that states that there's a formula for it, and we'll send that to you as well.
Yeah, that'd be great. And then if you make future changes to this manual, does it come back to the council, or are you authorized to now make these changes going forward?
That's a question for the law department. My understanding is we are allowed to make minor changes, and the law department will let us know if they think it's substantive, and they will guide us to present it in front of you if they believe that it's a substantive change. So something minor, like a title change, we have something called the municipal housing liaison. We're going to call them something else, but they're going to do the same exact function. We may not want to bring it up to you for that. But if the rent limits change or we go back to HUD and Chapter 188 changes massively, we will bring it back to you for something substantive like that.
Great. And then for the affirmative marketing plan, is there requirements around language access, or maybe you can explain a little bit more about what's in the affirmative marketing plan?
Yes. So actually, I would love to call Alex up. He's the expert on the marketing plan. He's been developing this over the last year, and he's gotten quite good at it. So Alex, could you come up and talk about the marketing plan?
Yes, good afternoon, Councilman.
Alex, you can actually raise the mic up to you.
Okay, yeah. So the marketing plan is pretty much walks the developer through identifying an administrative agent, the person who's going to be overseeing the publishing for the published notice, qualifying households for these units, and also just placing them into the units, making sure that everyone is eligible for these designated units.
Okay. The language too, yeah?
They're required to publish it in all the languages spoken in Jersey City public schools in the top 6, I believe.
Okay.
And then it will be there.
Great, thanks.
Apologies.
Any more questions? Thanks a lot. Linda. Yeah.
Council President, council members, how are you? Lucinda McLaughlin, Director of the Department of Recreation and Youth Development. I'm before you on 5 different resolutions. I will start with 10.6, which is a resolution authorizing the renewal of an open-ended contract with Duncan Hardware. This is something that went out to public bid 2 years ago, I believe. We are renewing it. We, as the Parks Division, utilize Duncan Hardware for, like it says, small tools. I think we're capped at about $25,000 for purchases, and that's what we do with that one.
Any questions? Go ahead.
Next is item 10.7, which is a resolution accepting a bid to provide general maintenance for Bayside Park that was received on October 2nd, and rejecting all other bids. That was the second public bid for the park's maintenance. Bayside Park was the only park of the 7 that were contemplated within that bid, where the bids were exactly within our estimated range. So we are going to be awarding Bayside Park's general maintenance to Ascape Landscaping, which bid and has good references, which obviously we checked up on. While we reject the other 6 parks, we will then be able to negotiate on them with the 3 bidders who bid for the projects.
So there was no supporting documentation for the one for Bayside. So what are the scopes of services, and or can you send that to council so we can understand that?
I sure can, council members, and I can certainly send it, but for reference, there was, instead of just saying, hey, we need general maintenance tell us how you're going to do it. We said we need general maintenance in 14 different areas within our parks. We covered everything from, cleaning up the walkways, cleaning up debris, leaves, snow removal, ice treatment, all the things that are general maintenance. And so we covered 14 different areas, and each bidder put in a monetary bid per item as well, so we can sort of check back and keep where they are. I'm happy to send that over. Additionally, with the areas of the 14, we specified the frequency with which those tasks should be performed to meet our maintenance standards.
Great. And then for the other parks that were rejected, it follows the same criteria then, and
Correct. For the other 6 parks, the bids came in anywhere from about 5% higher than we anticipated to 17% higher than we anticipated. But when you're looking at bigger numbers, those amplify pretty quickly. So I do feel confident that we're going to be able to properly negotiate following the second, obviously, public bid and get a really nice product for the city.
Okay, and then one final question, because I know that at one point in time we had worked with Jean's Landscaping to make sure that all of these parks were maintained appropriately and the like is, and maybe this is not the right question, but knowing that there also should be consistency in the quality of work, I do have a little bit of a concern about it being, farmed out to different contractors.
So if I may, Council.
What's the parameters around that, and how will you be checking should it be awarded to other contractors? Like, what would be the criteria to make sure that every park is getting serviced appropriately?
Sure. Well, that's a great question. And I think it's important to remember that at some point in time, Jean's Landscaping didn't do any work in the parks for the city, right? So we had to trust that process at some point in time, which Jean's Landscaping came to the city through a public bid as well.
Right.
And there are 3 bidders for this project. Again, the entity who is working with the city is also interested in continuing work with the city. So I submit that the way that we keep a check on the vendors in this specific regard is by making our own standards that are required. And I also have one management employee whose task is this contract, helping to write it, staying on top, doing site visits, accepting the invoices as they come in, checking to reference that the work is being performed. Because I also submit that what we like about the work being done right now with Jean's Landscaping at the 4 parks under contract is that they're doing good work, right? So what we're looking for is good work, not specifically that contractor, right? That's my intention. So I do feel confident that the checks that we have put in place, especially with a dedicated staff member to look after these contracts, I believe we'll have a good outcome.
Thank you.
And Director, just to be clear, you're not going back out to bid for those other parks. You're going to negotiate or attempt to negotiate with the current bidders.
Correct. We can bid with whoever, we can negotiate, with whomever we want. We are not required to negotiate with the bidders. That being said, there were 3 bidders. They all have good references. They've shown themselves to do good work. And if we can look at the amount of money that they thought they could be doing it for and try to, make things work for the city, that's what we'd like to do.
Sunday, is there any way we can have some type of signage on who to call when there's excessive garbage or excessive growth of the grass? Because I don't work in recreation no more, and I don't want to be fielding no more calls from recreation about park maintenances or anything. So is there any way we can put any signage in the park?
Yes, Councilman, and actually just a few weeks ago, I learned I know Director Shea is gone, but the police are actually putting in like our own version of 311. So like a 24-hour, like not emergency, but like a call center that could attempt to address some of those things, separate and apart from C-Click Fix, obviously, which we are trying hard to make sure that all the constituents are aware of. I myself put things in C-Click Fix because it gives us an oversight, right? I can track the item, know who touched it. So Councilman, and I'm also working with Director Patel on infrastructure so we can have proper, adequate, and consistent signage across our parks. I agree with you that it's frustrating when our constituents don't know how to reach out when something that affects the whole community isn't up to par.
What's the issue with, all the parks? Are we are we understaffed? Is that why we're outsourcing it? Are we gonna, eventually have a reduction in staff if if we start to basically outsource all the park maintenance out, like what's the glide path forward? Because, you know, I know a lot of people are paying a lot of taxes. They deserve quality service at their park. So I just want to know the plan.
Sure. So Councilman, what we did with this specific bid is we looked at how much money we as a city were expending basically per acre for ourselves to maintain, and then what are we expending per acre of parkland across the city for someone else to maintain. And I have been making efforts to make sure that we as a department are spending as much on ourselves as we're asking other people to do. So right now, the way we're using these vendors is not to replace, but to supplement, because we have a lot of parks, and as anyone in this room knows, it takes way longer than it should to get from one site to another. So with 72 parks, that's a lot of parks to get to each day, right? So even as it is with these, let's talk about Bayside, right? When Ascape Landscaping is the general maintenance person at Bayside, they'll be there 3 times a week. And when there's an event at Bayside, general maintenance park staff from the Division of Parks are going to be the ones on site cleaning up after that event, collecting garbage. We have been doing a lot. I think we've been doing a better job of it, and certainly making ourselves more accountable. The parks maintenance staff currently, when they arrive on site at the parks that we maintain ourselves, we do an on-site checklist. We take a look at how much trash is there. What are the issues? We've been updating, putting trash cans where we see an issue with overflowing trash cans. We've been trying to address. We've also added regular stops on the weekends at some of the more high volume parks where they have less permitted events, but a lot of community members engaging, like at a Van Voorst, at a Hamilton, where there's just consistent action. So we've added necessary stops there as well.
Thank you, Director.
Next one.
Okay, my next item is item 10.8, a resolution authorizing the execution of a use agreement with the state of New Jersey, Veterans Affairs for the Armory. This is something that has been going on for many, many years. We, as a Department of Recreation and Youth Development, lease the Armory for a set number of hours between, I believe, November 28th this year, and I think it's March 10th, if I'm looking at the calendar, in that facility, which we basically operate as if it's our own at those junctures. We host track practices for every single high school across Jersey City. We host and staff the AAU track events, some high school track events as well. Next one.
Before you go.
Yes, Councilman.
What are we paying them $118,000 for?
The fee from the Armory breaks down into a use fee, which has its own per hour rate. And they also charge us, the armorer himself, his time is part of the fee. And I think there might be also an application fee within that. And then literally every hour that we use it, it's on like a 3-page chart. It has a start time and end time. It has the amount of hours the armorer, the amount of hours for use, and then the amount is calculated and handed over to us.
The Armory should be free to the people of Jersey City, except for paying, maybe if they have to have people come pay a salary or overtime. But it's a shame that they charge us.
I can tell you, it's a charge. It's a charge.
It is quite a large fee. I do agree, and maybe we can work moving forward on maybe sharing some of those responsibilities. It is also an exemplary asset, and one that is very unique in this city and really like on the East Coast. So the opportunities that we are able to provide the youth in this setting are very important.
Last one, come on, Lucinda.
Okay, my next one is, here we go, 10.9, which is a resolution authorizing the Department of Recreation and Youth Development to apply for and accept, if awarded, recreation opportunities for individuals with disabilities, which is through the state. We asked for $20,000, which would require a $4,000 match from the city if we are selected for funding.
I want to thank you for everything you've done, especially with the children with disabilities. They really need it, and you're really spearheading, something new here in this city. So thank you so much.
I appreciate that, Councilman, and I anticipate I think I've already seen it trickling down from me into the staff, and I think everything's going to be up and up. Okay. And my last item for consideration today is item 10.17, which is a resolution authorizing the award of a contract to Central Poly Bag for the purchase and delivery of large plastic bags for the Division of Parks Maintenance. We use a lot of garbage bags. That's the answer, and we're purchasing 720 cases here, which should outfit us for the entire year with a 20% overage just in case.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow.
Good afternoon, Council. So I have one item on the agenda, 3.1, Ordinance 22095, an ordinance providing for a special emergency appropriation for $10 million, providing for the payout of contractually required severance liabilities resulting from the layoff or retirement of employees. So this has been pretty standard practice for us the last few years. These are non-budgeted costs for any employee that was either retired, resigned, terminated, and we paid out their sick vacation time. And this would allow us to spread the cost out over 5 budget years, and $10 million would be the maximum that we'd go out to finance for. So that resolution would come probably within the next 2 meetings with the final amount that we'd be financing.
Council, I just want to state, it's kind of a question that comes up every year. The title does say layoffs. It's not applicable to us. It's just the way that the state mandates that we write the ordinance. So this is strictly for severances of retirees or separations, no layoffs.
Is this going to present a cost savings for the city?
So it would essentially be a cost savings in the current year budget where we didn't have to appropriate these dollars. Next year, 1/5 of whatever we finance would be in the budget, but it's kind of organically, we now have a 10 million deferred charge in our budget from prior year authorizations as well. So rather than tacking that 10 on, this is kind of best way for us to go about it as far as, finding budget space for it, because it's also, you don't know what it's going to be year to year. It could fluctuate 10 to 20. You don't know what it's going to be at the beginning of the year. So to try to guess, you may have to come before council anyway and, do another ordinance like this for the difference.
So Councilman, this is a 2010 law that was initiated by, at that time, Governor Christie, when we were seeing some mass exodus at the state and county and municipal areas due to changes in health benefits, possible changes in benefits when you retire. The cities, states, and county could not afford to pay 100 police officers that were leaving at a time, or at the state police, 1,000 police officers, all their accrued time. So this enables cities, and they extended it because cities do use it, to make 1/5 payment over 5 years. And with that, any employee that was hired after 2010 can only accrue $15,000 annually. Total for when they retire. So these quote unquote boat checks won't be applicable in 5 to 6 years because those individuals that will then have 20 years will then be capped at 15,000. So this is something that all cities in the state are dealing with. Sometimes the liability is greater in certain areas, mostly depending on how big their public safety units are.
Thank you. Thank you, Carl.
Thank you.
Maggie. O'Neill.
Good evening, council members. For the record, I'm Maggie O'Neill, Senior Historic Preservation Specialist with the Division of City Planning. I'm here on 2 items this evening, and even though it's listed second on the slip, if it's okay with you, I would prefer to start with item 4.1, ordinance number 22-090.
4.1 you said, Maggie?
4.1, yes, sorry. An ordinance of the Municipal Council of the City of Jersey City to adopt the 6th Street Embankment Redevelopment Plan. It is up on Wednesday for a second reading. We had our first reading at the previous council meeting. At that caucus meeting, Mallory and I had presented on the specifics of the plan. In the time since, council has requested a small change to the editor's note at the beginning of the plan. We have not received the specific language from council yet. But we will be able to provide it to you prior to the meeting on Wednesday with the anticipation of introducing it as a floor amendment. That editor's note mostly discusses the previous litigation involving the embankment, and that language change will have no impact on the plan. Apologies for the late introduction of it, but it will come as a floor amendment and you'll have the language ahead of time. Do you guys have any questions on that item?
Excellent.
Very excited for you guys to finally vote on it. My second item that I'm here for this evening is 3.4 Ordinance 22-098, an ordinance amending Chapter 45, Article 4, Section 33, entitled Fees for Historic Preservation Commission Applications. The current Historic Preservation Commission fee schedule was adopted in 2001 when the overall ordinance was adopted and has not been comprehensively updated since then. While I was obviously not employed by the city 21 years ago, my understanding is that those fees, when they were adopted, were purposely kept artificially low so as to not alienate members of the community for applying to the HPC for review of work and to not scare residents from the general HPC process. In those 21 years, we've added an entire new historic district, 10 additional local landmarks, updated our demo review process, introduced a new demo application, have adopted at least 9 redevelopment plans and implemented 4 zones that have historic preservation review requirements, have added 2 additional staff members, all while the rate of development and by default applications to the HPC have dramatically increased. So we're here this evening asking for you all to consider an increase to those HPC fees to reflect the amount of staff time that goes into reviewing these applications and assisting residents of the city through that process. The new proposed fee schedule, which is much more thoroughly explained in the memo in your packet this evening, it just talks about all of the staff time that goes into specific types of applications. I am going to briefly review some of these fee changes with you, but as I do this, I do want to make it very clear from the beginning, this is not a money grab. We're not here to really charge residents for this. We're just looking to cover some of the costs associated with reviewing these applications so that we can continue to provide services to all of the residents of the city, ones who live in historic districts, and also all of those buildings and sites that we review outside of historic districts. I also want to note that the HPC waives the fees for churches, schools, and nonprofits. So any buildings that are owned by any of those entities, this fee changes will not impact them in any way, shape, or form. The fee schedule is on page 52 of your packet if you'd like to follow along as I very quickly go over some of the changes. The first section of that fee schedule is for certificate of no effect applications. We call these cone applications. They're staff approvals. The HPC sees on an average year between 500 to 600 applications for work. And of those 500 to 600 applications, 95% of them are cones. So this top of the fee schedule is going to be what impacts 95% of our applicants. You'll see in some cases, these numbers are doubling. Again, the fee schedule when it was introduced was artificially kept low. And while they are doubling, it's our opinion that these fees are still very low and we do not foresee many applicants, if any, having any problems adjusting to these fees. The most applications that we see are for general work. So in our current fee schedule, we charge per unit. Interior work's $10 a unit. That fee will be increasing to $20 a unit. So again, it's doubling, but they're still very low. And then the second most common type of work we see is exterior work. Currently, that is a $20 per unit charge. We are looking to increase that fee to $50 a unit. Again, more than doubling, but still quite low, especially in comparison to the fees that the Division of Zoning and the Building Department charge for the associated work here. We do believe that this is a manageable increase for 95% of our applicants. The next section down on that fee schedule is for certificate of appropriateness fees. These are our board applications. These are applications that go directly to the commission itself. These account for 5% of our overall applications. And for context, in an average year, the HPC sees between 25 to 40 applications a year. So this is impacting 25 to 40 applicants per year. And this is where you see the larger increases in our fee schedule. Again, this is to reflect the amount of staff time that goes into these applications because things that go to our board are much larger applications. They are things that are, when it goes to the board, it is mostly going to the board because our ordinance specifically requires for them to go to the board. The reason we have 95% rate of staff approvals is because Dan, Sarah, and I, the HPC staff, spend so much time trying to get applicants a project that we can approve at the staff level rather than having them go to our board and spend that extra time and money. Examples of projects that go to our board are things like new construction, projects that require variances from the Planning and Zoning Board, very large, full height, full width rear additions, rooftop additions, things like this. They're more substantial projects. In this proposed fee schedule, we're actually revising the method in which we collect fees. We're introducing a minimum fee for the amount of time that staff and the board spend on the application. That minimum fee matches the minimum fee required for site plan at the planning board. And then there's a variable rate on top of that minimum fee for the amount of units that are affected or for the amount of square footage of commercial space that is affected. In addition to those COA fees, we have an exterior sign fee as a flat $250. We are purposely keeping that, not introducing a minimum fee there because those directly affect business owners. And again, we want to keep that number manageable for them. Last section of that fee schedule is for additional fees. This is where our demolition and determination application fees live. I do want to point out those two fees are the only ones, to my knowledge, that have been revised in more recently than 2001. We did revise those in 2019. It started at $40, went to $100, and now they're increasing a small bit again. This is to account for the amount of staff time spent reviewing these applications and also to account for, as we have worked on these applications and we've been denying buildings that are historically significant, staff then spent a considerable amount of time working with the applicants who have been denied in order to be able for them to develop their property in a historically appropriate manner. We send those projects to planning board. We go to the planning board ourselves. We speak out for the owner to make the planning board aware that we told them they couldn't do something and we helped them through it. And we think it's a good project and should be approved. So that fee increase is to account for that. We're also looking to add a certificate of occupancy fee. This is something we do not currently have a fee structure for. We currently do it for free, and we would like to not do it for free anymore. This $100 fee accounts for the site visits and the time staff spends back and forth reviewing things. And we are going to match the Division of Zoning's fee on that for $100. These fee changes were unanimously approved at the HPC at its regular meeting of September 12th, and they were unanimously approved by the Planning Board at its October 11th meeting. City planning staff, HPC staff believe that these are reasonable and increases that frankly should have been done a very long time ago. And I'm happy to answer any questions regarding this ordinance that any of you have, as well as any questions on our current HPC fees or application process.
Any questions?
I just, what triggers a special meeting and what all goes in, because that's the biggest jump on here.
So the special meetings are, you're right, they're our biggest jump. The special meetings are triggered only when an applicant asks for them. So these typically come up when an applicant doesn't like that I tell them that there is too much time in between when I can schedule them for a meeting or not. I do my best to be very considerate of my commissioner's time since it is a volunteer position. So I try very hard not to have meetings go past 11 p.m. So when I schedule applications, sometimes people can't be scheduled. It's never more than a month, but sometimes it's a month wait for a meeting. And depending on a developer's timeline, they can make a request to staff for a special meeting.
So these are like so let's say I called today. Today is November 7th. But I need to get your rendering on a project in 2 or 3 weeks and I don't have the month. So I will pay this fee in order to go and get there.
Yes, the fee is paid entirely by the developer. They're the ones who request it from staff. We do not, that is not a normal fee for people to pay. I don't have the exact number off the top of my head. At a maximum, we do 1 special meeting a year. It's not a fee that comes up often.
That's a good fee. I like that fee.
How much staff do you have?
Sorry?
It's just you and Dan still?
So Dan is the HPO, there's myself, and then we also have Sarah who is directly under us.
3.
We have 3, yes.
Are there, for the special meeting request, are there residents that are requesting the special meeting? I'm a little concerned about the jump in terms of, is it going to be accessible for the, average Jill or Jane?
So again, I don't have the specifics on this. I can't recall in the 5 years that I've been here, anyone other than a developer or their attorney requesting a special meeting. I can confirm that and send you guys an update on Wednesday. But again, these special meetings come up when it is, I can't think of one that has been for any reason other than a developer did not like my timeline of having them, like, for example, so something that has come up recently. Someone submitted an application last week and they wanted to be on my November HPC meeting, which is this coming Monday. I can't accommodate that timeline for a variety of reasons. The next available one is December. They asked if they could have a special meeting between our November meeting and our December meeting.
If there is a way to, let's say it's an elderly resident who wants to request a special meeting, is there a way to waive the fee at your discretion?
So this fee for a special meeting is being raised not because we're punishing people for asking for a special meeting. It's being raised to accommodate staff over the cost of staff overtime, our court reporter, the attorney overtime. There's a reason why that number is what it is, the 700, and we also, to publish the meeting, everything like that. At our current rate, we lose money on special meetings.
Can you just confirm for us that it's always been a developer in your time here? That would put me at ease.
Yeah, I will absolutely pull that for you and send you guys an email Wednesday morning. I'll review, I can go back to 2010 comfortably.
Okay. As long as it's always a developer, I'm fine with it because they could stomach that cost, but thank you.
Okay, got it.
Still have to pay for the court. Sorry. It's the challenging part. Still have to pay for the staffing regardless.
Yeah,
Special
yeah.
meeting. It doesn't make a difference. The staffing is what you really have to cover.
Right, which is why it's jumping from
Right.
700 to 2,000 because again, it's the staff overtime, the
Right,
publishing,
it's overtime.
meeting, the overtime of the court reporter. It's because they're outside of her contract.
The court reporter, yeah. Yes. has to be-
I just want to reiterate that the city can't make money off of fees. It has to be a direct offset. So it's calculated with the hours and the overtime and everything down to materials, but it's not a situation where the city is going to benefit financially.
Thank you, Meg.
Thank you all.
Oh. Wake up. Sleep.
Council President, council members, good evening. I'm here tonight representing Director Stacy Flanagan on the matter of the animal control contract, which is before you 10.31. This is a matter where you've authorized competitive contracting. We put out an RFP. We received one response from Liberty Humane Society. The evaluation committee met and deemed that response was responsive to what the city asked for, and we're recommending issuance of the contract. There are several matters that the committee thought needed clarification in the contracting process, but otherwise we completely recommend adoption of the proposal.
Well, $1.4 million. I think there could be a lot of improvement down there at the animal center. I'll give you an example. I had a dog running in the street. I almost hit it with my car. I took it down there and the girl told me at the desk, well, we can't take the dog. I said, what? And then I had to call, I think I called, what's the name, the girl that manages it. I go down there a lot and the place is closed.
So if I understand the situation correctly, we do expect our animal control service to provide emergency care for sick or injured animals, other than those that are where the owner is clearly identified. That would be the owner responsibility. If it's a dog whose owner is unknown, that is a municipal responsibility, and a situation like that should have been answered by animal control. We do certainly have ways through Health and Human Services to get emergency response if the initial public response at the door or through the animal control number is not working. And I think we're also very interested in hearing feedback from your council offices about any problems that you've experienced. A number of the ones which have come up operationally are things which we believe we are addressing in the contracting process as well as in the RFP itself.
Yeah, Paul, the one objection I have is that the place, when you go down there quite a bit of times, it's not open. It should be open constantly.
Councilman, as I understand it, in my tenure, both in my prior work as an animal control officer for the city, the shelter has always maintained limited hours. They have done so even more so during the COVID era. It's my understanding that they do open during their publicly posted hours, and for the animal control service, that is something which is available 24/7, subject to the guidelines of the contract, which is exactly what we're seeking approval for.
Well, you mentioned that there were, I guess, backup ways to take care of animal issues. If Liberty Humane isn't available, what would be the additional resource?
Well, we do expect our vendor to be available for all the services we contract for them. Animal control is a responsibility for each municipality, which is assigned to us by the state. And there are certain things which are kind of non-negotiable about what we must provide. So if the initial response, they do provide a 24-hour hotline to access animal control. There is a protocol which they and we have agreed on about what responses come 24 hours a day and what responses might be handled during their more normal service hours. But if there's any problem, both the director and I as the health officer, as well as our assistant health officer, Dr. Siren, do have access to their team if the response is insufficient according to the contract. So in other words, yes, if there is a problem that you become aware of, you can contact either me or Dr. Siren, and we can get in touch with their team, with their management whenever needed. We'll be happy to give you that information.
Well, I just want to say that Liberty Humane have been horrible with respect to providing these services. There are several instances in which they failed to do their due diligence to help. One in particular, an individual dog got out in the middle of the night, was hit by a car. They called animal control. First, animal control didn't even know they had possession of the dog. Then it comes to find out that they didn't take the dog for emergency treatment because it looked like it belonged to someone. And they were waiting, I guess, for the owner to claim it to render the service or pay for the service. The dog died in animal control custody. There are countless occasions where that place, I don't even know the hours they have. They're never open. I've never, I ain't gonna say never, they almost never open. And it's so hard to get in. You have to call an operator that's dispatched somewhere else for them to transfer you. Then you gotta wait for a call back. The animal gonna be dead. It's horrible. At some point, we have to make sure we're properly spending tax dollars on service that are gonna be beneficial. So I don't know what we have to do to entice other people to bid on it. I don't know if there needs to be an infrastructure in place to hold them accountable for this money that they're getting versus the service they're providing, but something has to be done.
Thank you, Councilman. I am completely agreed that when there is a deficiency in service, that's something that we need to promptly address. So if any specific details you have, I would really appreciate that, and we can follow up with them. In the situation you describe, again, my understanding is that unless an owner is definitively identified, it is the responsibility of animal control to provide that emergency care, which could include treatment to stabilize the animal, to rehabilitate the animal, or in some cases to humanely euthanize, and that's a veterinary decision. That is part of what we pay them to do in this contract. That is part of our responsibility to provide the service. And anytime there is a deficiency, we do intend to work with them on it. And in fact, in the contracting process, we're looking to identify specific ways that we can get better performance when there's a discrepancy in what we expect to receive and the service provided.
So we have no infrastructure to essentially hold them accountable. We're going to give them another 2-year we had issues with the last service they provided. And I was under the impression that we were just finishing out to look for other suitors. And now we're voting on a 2-year extension.
Well, if you're taking if you're taking a wider approach, I will say that from personal knowledge, there are not that many potential vendors available to provide the service to a city of our size. Liberty Humane Society has this business because the city used to provide it directly and determined that it was more advantageous to the city to have a contractual relationship to do that. Currently, our option really is to we did engage in the competitive contracting process and recommended approval of this contract, but with some notations for addressing some of the service issues which you've referenced and having better accountability on a regular basis throughout the contract. It does always remain an option that the contract can be canceled for non-performance. However, there would need to be provision since this is a service we are obligated to provide to our residents as well as their pets and the other animals of the city.
Paul, you've been in this line of business before. How much you think it takes to properly run one of these facilities?
So making the distinction between the shelter services, which is a separate contract and not up for consideration today, and the animal control side, when the city handled it directly, we did it for somewhat less than is the current contract amount. As I look at the contract amount, my own professional judgment is that it's a reasonable amount. However, that for the amount that's paid, I think we also have reasonable service expectations, which I think have not been fully met, and we are looking to do a much better job of that with our vendor in the current contracting period.
I understand part of the problem was that Liberty Humane said that they didn't have enough funding to perform these services. Is this a contract that's going to allow them to meet the expectations of the city? Is this something that, you know, both sides are happy with?
With respect, Councilman, that is not feedback that has come to us from Liberty Humane Society. This is a competitive contracting process. Had there been other vendors proposing services, we would have evaluated them. I think that if I were submitting a proposal, I would give a proposal that was both my best work as to what I could provide, but also is going to provide me with the resources necessary. So,
does Liberty Humane keep metrics as to how many calls they respond to, you know, what scope of their services are and how they performed annually? Because I didn't see any attachment with, you know, any of that information.
They do, and I think that that is one aspect of their service that we seek to address in the current contract. The RFP was quite detailed about precisely what they have to report every month. And we would be happy to provide you with the reports from the last contract period, but we're looking for, you know, much better data going forward so that we can do a better job evaluating their service.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
Can you send those metrics as well?
Yeah, we'll
Sorry,
make sure you get them Wednesday morning.
Woof, woof.
Thank you.
Webb, Ms. Webb.
Evening, Council.
Good evening.
Here to accept a grant on behalf of the library. It's the per capita state aid for the library and in the amount of $149,226.
I think it's, we're talking about item 10.4, correct?
Item 10.4, resolution 22-783.
It's item 10.4, resolution 22-783.
Okay.
And it's accepting on behalf of the Jersey City Library, and it's the per capita state aid in the amount of $149,226.
Questions? No. Thank you. Lawrence? And Shannon.
Good evening, Council President and Council members.
Good evening.
I'm Florence Barron with Jersey City Economic Development Corp. Development Director, and my colleague Shannon Mitchell is also here. I'm here for 10.13, Resolution 22762. Resolution approving the project and authorizing the submission of an application to the New Jersey Urban Enterprise Zone Authority for Enterprise Zone Assistance Funds for the Jersey City UEZ Bike Program. Attached to the resolution with the program parameters, and if there are any questions, we would be happy to answer any.
Any questions? Go ahead.
So with regard to this particular piece of the UEZ funding, was this done in consultation with the leadership of the special improvement districts? And how did you guys come up with this particular bike program? I mean, on surface, I think it looks good, but I do have a lot of questions as it relates to what the intent of the UEZ funding is for and why it's going to this particular program.
Okay. The intent of the UEZ program is to create jobs and promote economic development. And we met with our chairperson and the administration, and we felt that this program would be beneficial to small businesses and to our lower income residents.
Okay. So
Unfortunately, Shannon could speak a little bit about the meeting we had with the bike owners.
Good evening.
Good evening. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I thought.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Okay. So none of the special improvement district leadership was involved in this meeting. So there was no outreach to the businesses through the leadership of the SPs?
So we met with the actual bike shop owners
Okay.
to speak about the program.
And then I saw on your list of bike shop owners, was there criteria? Do they have to be within a special improvement district? Because there was, I know at least one on Mallory Avenue that's missing from this list.
And which bike shop is that?
It's the Inspire Bike Shop on Mallory, and it's right by Gil Rossi's hair shop. What is that? Anyway, it's right by Carmen,
So the four bike shop owners that we met with, those were the ones that they had the traditional pedal bikes. All the other bike shops had the electric bikes.
Okay, and I saw in here that part of it was to assist people who are working for some of the delivery services, but as we're seeing, most of those delivery people use at least pedal-assisted e-bikes. So when you exclude e-bikes, is it all e-bikes or only class 2 and higher, which are throttle or full electric?
So the pedal bikes, it was the price point. So the amount of the actual, the program that we're allocating the funds, we couldn't do the pedal assistance.
Well, some pedal assists from what I've seen fall under the $900 criteria, but that's, maybe another conversation. And then finally, since this is supposed to assist people to get to and from work outside of income criteria and home, like what other criteria are you using to make sure that this isn't just a bike giveaway and it's actually going to go to people who really do need the bikes to get to and from work?
In the application, we'll have their need. They would have to describe their need, that they need this to get to and from work in Jersey. They live in Jersey City by their income requirements. They'll have to have proof of residency. And they will have to explain their need, that they need this to get to and from work every day.
I understand the need, but what other documentation from their employer or anything like that?
Yes, we will require that from them.
And then finally, what sort of bike training will they receive to make sure that they're going to be following the bike rules of the road? Because I think that as we are creating more multimodal forms of transportation, which is important in our city, what's lacking is the education in addition to the enforcement. So if you are given a bike through this program, what bike training are you required to have?
Okay, that's a good suggestion. Thank you for that. And actually, I will bring that back to our board and put that recommendation and put that into the proposal that upon receiving this grant, they go through a training course.
And should this move forward, what's the timeline to implement?
Timeline after this is approved, we submit it to the state. And they're going like almost on a 60-day behind schedule of approving. So we're looking at rolling this out in the spring of 23.
And would you need state approval, or does the state give latitude to the city to spend the resources however they see fit?
No, that's why we have it to come to council with each resolution with each project. Right. They have to approve, after council approves each project with UEZ funds, the state also has to approve the use of that project. Then we could use those funds for that specific purpose.
Okay, I just
and also the businesses.
I'll also email you guys some additional follow-up questions because I don't want to take up everyone's time, but I just, knowing we went for so long without UEZ funding and knowing that the first $1 million was dedicated to off-duty and there are some issues with the off-duty program, I have concerns that putting this money to residents in needs of bike, which I agree is definitely a need. I just, I know that there's also need for other businesses and this may only be supporting 4. I just want to make sure that we're being really thoughtful about how this money is being implemented.
Sure. Please email me any questions you have.
I will.
Go ahead.
And also with the, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Oh, no, ladies first. It's all good.
With the requirements, I see the qualifications and, it's mostly based on income and being a resident and being 18 years old. So if you already have a vehicle, you can still apply for this program and get a bike?
If we fall with the rising costs of maintaining a vehicle, we're considering it if they fall within those income requirements.
I guess my concern is, will it serve the purpose or is it just a free bike program?
That's what it seems like.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, we could take that in consideration that if they have a vehicle that it bars them from this program. That's the recommendation of the council, that they would like to see if someone has a vehicle that they not get this in addition to, we could put that in the guidelines of the project.
Go ahead, you said.
Councilman, are you finished? Okay. Yeah, you could go. No, it's all good. I'll save the best for last. It's all.
It's by the amount of time we actually don't spend time asking questions that you get to go first.
This might be a stupid question, but I didn't see anything about helmets. Are they giving them helmets in addition to the bicycles?
We did put in some additional funds for like accessories, that they could get the bike, they could get the helmet, the reflectors. That would be within that $1,000.
It is within the 1,000? Okay.
Isn't it the 1,000? But we were also thinking that it may be a little bit more based on those accessories. We're going to see how, as we move forward with the program, we could adjust the award if like 1,000 and then a few hundred for the accessories. They're going to need a helmet, they're going to need reflectors, all of those accessories that go with riding a bike.
I also do want to echo Councilwoman Prinzari's point that there needs to be some safety education along with, like a program. Yeah, if this is to proceed. And Councilman Gilmore, you have the floor.
Yes. So each of these bikes ideally will be 900. Am I reading that right?
I'm going to award up to 1,000 with this proposal, award up to $1,000. That'll include bike and accessories at this point. But if we find that moving forward, the cost of everything is a little higher, we could adjust that amount.
Yes, I think that's something we can look. I mean, I understand the support and local business mechanism in there as well. And also with regards to the residency, so it would still be the 2-year threshold? Or you could just move, get a New Jersey ID, and bam, you're a resident? How do we?
No, they would have to be a resident, at least since from 2021, because we're going to be going by their income from 2021 to ensure that somebody just didn't move here and is taking advantage of the program. I believe it is in the best interest of the program and the city for them to have been a resident, at least since the beginning of 2021.
Is there any way that you could probably set up a meeting with the council before before this comes? Because we're really not comfortable with this, to be
okay.
And I don't want to waste no time.
Thank you.
So could we just table this or pull it, whatever we have to do?
That's fine, Council President.
Okay, because they don't.
Yeah, we'll have a presentation by EDC and work.
Okay.
Okay. We, with that money,
Thank you.
we feel like, with the UEZ dollars, something else could be done with it, to be perfectly honest. And we all for bikes and, people getting jobs, but based on it won't come out to next spring. By then, it might be, we might need some UEZ dollars now. It's winter.
Yeah, but unfortunately, the way it works is with going to the authority.
Okay.
Nothing will be approved
Until the spring.
At least January.
Oh, okay. That's good, but we'll meet. So.
Okay, we'll meet with everything.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
So we have to come back with this one, Sean, so we have to table this. You can see we're not happy. Like, ain't no need. Let's don't waste no more time. Maynard, come on.
Good evening, Council President and council members. I have 3 items in front of you tonight. First would be agenda number 10.20. It's resolution 22-79799. It's a resolution providing local support for Cream Dispensary to operate a Class 5 retail cannabis business. The Cream dispensaries will be located at 284 First Street.
Director, do you know if they've met with the local neighborhood association?
That I do not know.
Okay, I will try to confirm that before Wednesday, because if they're in Ward E, I'd like them to at least meet with their neighborhood before we give them final approval.
Will do. Any other questions?
Just let us know about this one, okay, if they met with the neighborhood association.
Okay.
Because the neighborhood association would like to meet with them. So if they have not, then you could just.
Okay.
That's it.
Will do.
That's the way to go. Next one.
Next item is item number 10.21. It's resolution 22-800. It's a resolution ratifying the award of professional service agreement with Shillman, Wigman and Associates to provide court reporting service to the CCB.
Have you been up, or have the videos been uploaded regarding the cannabis board meetings? I know that you need court reporting services, but they should also be uploaded. Have they been uploaded?
Yes, they have been.
Okay.
We're doing that internally through IT.
Is it going to be, is there, a date for when all of them will be uploaded, or? the meetings.
I know there's been a little bit of a challenge because of the size of the video that we're using, but it is definitely being worked on. And it has been, the last few have been uploaded.
Because we shouldn't just have court reporting services. It should be accessible to the public, like the meetings should be visible.
Yes.
Recordings, okay. Is for
Come
the,
here. I mean, you pay for that service.
okay, that's all.
So, and last I have, it's agenda number 4.3. It's the second reading of ordinance number 22-094. It's an ordinance amending chapter 84 of the Municipal Code of Jersey City to limit the number of cannabis class 5 retail licenses to be issued. And that number would be 55.
Oh, yes. Oh, where do I begin with this? I think I just really want to be clear that I really want to get this right the first time around. This legalization of marijuana have been an attempt to try to, I guess, right out societal wrongs. Now, for me, looking at this, this package today, this is the, I guess, annual quarterly report for the approval dispensaries that were approved so far. And when I look at this and I see no approved applications in Ward F, and when I'm looking at the disparities in New Jersey, a black person is 17 times more likely to be arrested than their white counterpart. Now we're legalizing marijuana, and individuals who were penalized the most doesn't look like they're going to be benefiting from it. And now we're capping it at a number. So I would like to see some form of mechanism that have an equal distribution of dispensaries in said jurisdictions. Because again, when I look at this as the council person for Ward F, there's no economic growth or no economic stability or no helping affected communities, because these individuals in Ward F, for the most part, they don't have the opportunity to work in the dispensary that's in Ward F because there's none there. So when we capping, we need to make sure we're talking about equity. We don't just want the people who have the money to get in the arena and benefit more, because it's furthering, you know, the detriment we had on black and brown communities from the beginning. So is there any way we can implement some form of mechanism that essentially state that if they don't have to necessarily be even, but they need to be identical in the sense that there's equal dispensaries and equal jurisdiction. And in the same breath, we don't want all the dispensaries in one place.
I agree with you, Councilman. I think that's something that we would have to reach out to the law department, see if there's a way that we would be able to force more businesses to open in other parts of the city. But as we stand right now, we've looked at 27 applications out of the 55 that have passed by the CCB, and you are right that most of them are not in the south side of the city.
Is there any way to encourage cannabis applicants to set up their establishments on the south side of this city? Are there any efforts from local community organizations to inform the legacy markets regarding this opportunity in terms of, you know, getting their operations, you know, legalized?
I mean, I think that makes sense to reach out to the legacy market, but we'd have to put together some type of community outreach, which would also have to be funded, right, with some additional sources of capital to provide some of these legacy markets, because it's not, I mean, it's not an inexpensive endeavor to get into this business.
Can we hold information sessions in the south side in terms of, hey, if you want to, you know, set up a cannabis retail location, this is what you would need, like these are the application guidelines, like, have we done any information sessions?
That we have not.
Okay, I think, you know, I am concerned about limiting the number of cannabis retail locations, just because, as the councilman for Ward F said, that, you know, this might cut off the opportunity for people that want to be in the south side. But I also think we should be cognizant about load balancing. It shouldn't be in one area of the city or a few areas of the city versus another. So we should make a concerted effort to load balance to the other side of the city.
And council, we can also follow up with the councilman about what type of mechanism you want to talk about and look into that.
That's it? That's what.
I think, wait, you know, how,
So the state laws specify diverse ownership, not necessarily geographical location. So I understand where you're coming from, Councilman, but really it's an issue with the market. So as Councilman Slay said, I think that we can encourage the market to move into those areas, or maybe provide ample information on locations that would be relevant in Ward F. But really it's a market perspective that, you know, we had X amount of applicants that chose other locations for, you know, their own economics, including some diverse vendors. So I think the city could partner. Maybe we could exercise through diversity and inclusion to also get them involved with Maynard and the cannabis and help facilitate. But at the end of the day, it's really private business entities that we're looking to prompt.
So is capping it at 55 the answer?
Capping it at 55 would potentially create market stabilization. That's where we feel the amount of retailers for per capita for our population, and with the current applicants and approvals, we do have, I believe about 20 to 25 slots left that we could then encourage those 25 slots to go to F. But we don't have any mandated laws or superseding laws that mandate geographical locations. It would be a local effort to push entities to that side.
But I think part of the challenge is too, though, sites. That's what, when I meet with a lot of the
I think what will happen
the
also.
owners that's coming, they saying that they have a site, but it's not guaranteed yet. They're going through this process. I think part of the issue is finding a site to open up a cannabis shop. That's part of the problem. Now, and I've seen based on the numbers, the majority of them right now is in Ward
Ward D, yeah.
You know what I mean? Then
Been a very vocal proponent for it.
then comes Ward E, but I think it's locating a spot in the other wards. But I would think that what we could do is encourage, you know, like if they go to Ward D or Ward E, to encourage them to see if they would like to go to other wards to see if they can find a site, because that's the challenge right now, is find a site. Even though we cap it at 55, if we get to 55, I'm gonna be amazed, because it's a site issue right now. Even the ones that have it is having a problem, because based on the way the law is written, you have at least 90 days in order to secure a site. So you can get, you know, you can get a license, but then you have 90 days to secure a site. So there might be people who have license, but really still don't have a site.
And so that actually raises a question to that point is, let's say you secure the license, capped at 55, you had a site, but that site fell through. How long do you have to, would it be just the 1-year cycle until you have to go back before the board again to relinquish your license? Because I guess my concern is, when we're stepping into these cap numbers, is that it's starting to look a little bit like our liquor licenses. And I don't want us to be in a situation where somebody is holding a license to find the right location, or they get caught up in a lawsuit, like potentially we might do with one locations in Ward B because of the challenges that they're having with the university there. So is there, like, what does that mechanism look like if they can't secure a site?
Well, the number that we have, we normally require their site control before they come in front of the CCB as well as planning board. So that's normally either a lease or ownership of the property. What you may be referring to, the state does allow that you can get a conditional license without site control, and it's really not even specified by the municipality, but that's just what's happening at the CRC level.
I guess too, a little my concern is a lot of people are putting a lot of time and money into paying landlords money up front. In one case, I know of one applicant who's looking like, and we have no control over this, but they're investing money for like 8 months to a year, knowing that it might take them that long to go through the steps at the local level and then at the state level and then back to the local level again.
Right.
So I just, I agree that caps are a good idea. I feel like we need to do a little bit more.
Yes.
Make sure that it's going to be fair and equitable to the people who have received the license, the ones that are in the queue to get, and the ones that are working on getting everything together, only to find out a month from now when they go to apply, oh, sorry, we hit the cap. You can't do it.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, that's it.
Let me ask this question here. Since we had the UEZ people here, the CDC people, okay, is there a way that we can make a work incubator, something like that, so people who are, you know, the Black and brown community can have some type of access with fair playing ground? Because the sites, I know that for some of them, they thought they secure a site, but then they go back to the landlord done triple the price.
Rent, yes.
You know, so how do you expect Black and brown people really to be a part of this business? And they're already priced out. I said that from the beginning, they're already priced out, because those who are in the business already, because they come and they're in the business, so they smart, they partner with a minority, give them 5%. That looks good. We say, you know, it's minority owned, all right? Then somehow or another, they probably will just, you know, diminish them somehow or another, all right? Because, you know, we don't keep eyes on everything because the city is too big. All right. And so then the Black and brown community is pretty much really left out. So is there a way, because, you know, we have these UEZ dollars and they supposed to help it. Can we make business incubators and put like maybe 2 or 3 in, you know, which would be fair playing ground? It's how you present
Actually,
your
that
product.
is one of the projects we are working on. We're working on a proposal for a small business incubator in the MLK area. That's one of our working proposals.
If I could add, there's a number of vacant storefronts in that area. I don't know if the city can work with that at all and allow these landlords to push through businesses and use them as the incubators and have less empty storefronts.
Yeah, that's one of the projects we are working on.
I mean, because we try to make it fair as possible. We really are. The Black and brown community already priced out. It's the truth. Okay.
You're absolutely right, Council President. So what we've been seeing is, in order to operate some of these facilities, building primarily has to be owned
Correct.
by a sole entity. So what happens is the supply and demand as it exists, these owners now know that. So what was a storefront that was vacant for $2,000 a month, once they understand the purpose, they want to go to $8,000 a month.
Yes.
Question for legal. Can we put an ordinance together to sort of limit the amount in rent so it's not so usurious and so exponentially high in comparison to what the market rent is in the area? Is that something that's doable or researchable?
It's researchable, so we can look into it.
Yeah, because there has to be some sort of protections in terms, you know, they do it for credit cards, they do it for other, you know, there's got to be something, you know, on the state level as well that protects people from being taken advantage of, you know, like, yeah.
I guess.
And also if we could lower the barriers to entry in terms of reducing some of the fees on the city level for some of these minority applicants. Maybe we could make it into zones and say if you do in zone whatever, you know, on the south side, just make that one zone, then we'll reduce the amount for the fees.
Fees are actually cut in half if it's a micro business. So the smaller businesses that were intended to be focused on the smaller minority business, they are cut in half.
Because we're trying to address, you know, an equity issue that spans decades before any of us were on the council, you know, and we want people to have a fair shot and to allow them an opportunity, you know, and give them that information as well. So.
And I also feel that as some of the other areas of like Ward E and the Heights area get saturated, it's going to actually force the industry to open up more on the south side of the city because we do have distance rules in place. So that may help move them to the south side of the city.
Is there any way seeing that they're in the process of creating this incubator. I really just don't want to rush where we cap it and then we get it wrong. And then, the systematic suppression is happening all over again. So I think that we should really make sure we get it right. UEZ should have been at the table, especially with regards to how things are shaping out. I think it just calls for a meeting with all entities, just to be fair, just to be transparent, to make sure everyone have a fair chance. I mean, I don't smoke, but just to make sure that we're being fair to everyone.
Councilman, I think that we should proceed with the 55 just for the market cap. And I think that we should look at these 20 designations that would bring us to the 55 and solely concentrate them on the south side of the city.
No, they're not. There's about 7 or 8 just in the Journal Square area.
No, the future ones.
Huh?
Future.
Like I
Get them out of
believe,
Journal Square, all of them.
yeah, Maynard, I believe we have 2 possibly applicants in Ward F now.
Yes.
So we have 2 in Ward F going through the process right now.
Right.
So they would take up another 2 of those and we'd proceed.
Yeah.
We could also
And we can
discuss-
always open this up again.
Yeah, and we could also talk with the 2 that have applications at Ward F and understand some of their strengths and weaknesses in their application process.
Questions?
That's the next one, man. You finished? 4.3.
That's a 3.
Okay.
Thank you. Good night.
Wendy.
Good evening, Council President and
Good
members of the
evening.
Municipal Council. Wendy from Jersey City Municipal.
We got to hear your mic.
Sorry. Good evening. Wendy Rizzoli, Municipal Court Director, here regarding agenda item 10.15, resolution number 22-794. I'm here with Stacy Dix Kobiowski, the Director of Jersey City Community Solutions. Stacy's going to join me and go over the grant acceptance.
Evening. So this is a resolution to accept the Community Court Initiative Grant Award, which is from the U.S. Department of Justice, the Bureau of Justice Administration, to the Jersey City Community Courts Program, which is called Jersey City Community Solutions. The award is in the amount of $600,000, which is over a 4-year period. The funds would be used by the Community Solutions Program to support mobilization of services to reach additional defendants who may face barriers in participation. So we're looking to do a lot more outreach and community-based work with this, to strengthen partnerships and engage new community partners, as well as to improve our data collection and analysis capabilities. Jersey City was actually one of only 4 enhancement award grants nationwide. So this is highlighting the innovative approaches the city is taking to address some of the problems that will ultimately improve public safety as well as the lives of residents.
Questions? Anyone? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. John? Back.
Good evening, council members, council president. I'm speaking I have one item tonight, 10.32, resolution 22-811, and it's a resolution of the Jersey City Municipal Council accepting the best practices inventory questionnaire, which is it's given out each year by the Division of Local Government Services and issued through a local finance notice, and it's used. It's a questionnaire that's evaluating our fiscal and operational practices, best practices as they determine, and we answer the questionnaire, and based on our score, that determines the state aid we get from the Consolidated Municipal Property Tax Act aid and the Energy Transfer Tax aid. So the score on this, the questionnaire that we did, puts us well over the threshold that gives us the full state aid. If we scored lower than a certain threshold, they would be able to deduct state aid for us. So, if there's any.
Can I ask some questions about the answers?
Yeah. One or two of them might have been a little, but I thought about that a little, and even if I had to change the score, it would not hurt our, rating, but.
Sure. What is our number? Do you know?
I think it was like 33 and the 24 was like the high end.
Sure. Just a couple of questions. The first one was saying that question 6, the municipality completed an initial draft of its annual budget no later than the first week of February.
That was the one that I went back and forth on. I mean, the next two I said no, and
sure, but
I know that it's definitely our intention to do that, and although this year it didn't, so.
Intention, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. 12, has your municipality adopted a capital program as defined by NJAC 530?
Right.
I don't know, I'm not familiar with that state statute, but could maybe you send us what that capital program is?
Yeah, it's part of the budget, right? I think it's part of the budget filing.
Councilman, it's a 6-year, I don't know.
6 years.
It's like sheet 5 or 6. We'll get you a copy of it.
Yeah.
Basically, understanding what our fixed costs are moving over 6 years, so.
Great.
It's not a commitment.
Sure.
Yeah.
I understand question 18 was about the cash flow, so I'll separately follow up with a series of questions on the cash flow based on that answer. Question 24 was about posting the contracts with Perk on that website. I don't think we have all of our contracts up.
Okay.
Question 24. So I think it'd just be good for us to have all of our union contracts on that website.
Okay. Sure.
And so following up with HR.
Yeah.
On that. Question 29 said that we had the audit. It said deadline was extended August 31st, 2022 for calendar year 21 audits. So do we have our audit? Question, this is sorry, 29. I'm on question 29.
Sorry. The latest audit was 2020, so they're still working on 21 right now. So we can change that.
Got it. Okay. Then 30 was that. Well, I guess 30 probably has to change too, based on that, because we don't have the audit in place to answer 30.
The corrective actions.
Questions 48. Authorizes municipalities to adopt a resolution contracting with a local bank to serve as an official tax receiving agency. Do you know which bank that is?
Yes. 48, you said, right? That's Valley.
Valley, okay.
Yeah. And just, this is an unscored item, by the way, but still,
correct.
That's the answer.
Great. I'll contact with the clerk's office separately just to find a copy of the ordinance, because I didn't know you could go to Valley and pay taxes. So I'd love to let my constituents know that's an option. Okay. I think those are my questions. So I'll follow up on the capital budget and then separately on the cash flow items. I think probably we'll change a couple answers before Wednesday.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Anyone else?
Anything else? That's it.
Brian.
Good evening, Council.
Good evening.
I have 2 items for you.
both regarding professional service agreements for this building. First is agenda item 10.18, resolution 22-797. It's a professional services agreement to HMR Architects for the coordination, schematic design, design development, construction documents, and construction administration for City Hall 4th floor alterations.
They put a rain garden at the top or something like a.
Well, this is for the design, so it hasn't been designed yet.
Just open, okay.
Has been designed yet, Councilman. We are looking at
Environmentally sustainable.
some LEED certified elements, but it is a balancing act with the historic preservation. So maybe some stuff on the exterior to supplement what we're doing on the 4th floor.
Solar, you know, anything, just if they could do it, just look into it, that's all.
You can get them to say yes.
Okay.
$367,000, Brian, this is going to cost?
Yes, sir.
Is it at this time worth it to spend that much money up there? We're not using it?
Well, this space is very usable for the city and for forever, basically. It's sitting up there totally unused, so it's probably a good investment.
At a time like this, though, when, you know, we should look at a lot of ways to start saving money to lower our taxes.
Anyone else? That's it, thank you.
Okay.
Oh, you have one more.
One more, agenda item 10.19, resolution 22-798. And it's for a professional services agreement to HMR Architects for the City Hall building exterior rehabilitation. As you may know, there are a number of water leaks and other associated items that the exterior of the building are in disrepair, basically from decades of lack of maintenance. There's no nice way to put it, but we continue to work on trying to solve these issues, but we're at City Hall is at a point right now where we really have to stabilize and rehabilitate the exterior.
Is it common practice to have them split up into two? And because it's the same site, I would assume, you know.
Well, what I will say is that it's not necessarily common practice, but it does give us more options, and it does allow us to put out and for competitive contracting between professionals. It just so happens that the architect, after we interviewed, he fared better than all the others. So we had 10 responses to the first one, and we had 8 responses to this one, and they were fully vetted, and we chose HMR, which, by the way, HMR did this historic work here in the council chambers.
They've done fantastic work. Is there any way they could give us a discount since they won both bids? I mean, it's the same building, right?
I don't know.
Exterior, interior.
I mean, it's two
Any way
separate
to
contracts.
negotiate that?
Not with public bid, Councilman. I could talk with purchasing about potentially merging services within the contracts.
Yeah.
But we'd have to reject bids, not get another set of bids to negotiate. So maybe elements we can negotiate of combining. You have to look at the roof from the inside and the outside. That should be one service. So take a look at that.
Okay, thank you.
They're in the middle of the road, the middle. Oh, you.
That's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Have a good night.
I have no more.
Yay. Take it from the top.
All right, so item 3.1 was touched on earlier. Item 3.2, which is my item, it's an ordinance 22-096. It's an ordinance amending Chapter 3, Administration of Government, Article 5, Office of the City Clerk of the Municipal Code to restructure the Office of the City Clerk. It's basically just defining the roles of each deputy city clerk, because Jersey City has the ability to appoint 2 deputy city clerks. And since now we are issuing birth certificates, I'm going to have 1 deputy solely responsible for the vital statistic portion of the office, and the other deputy will be responsible for all of the rest of the responsibilities in the office. Any questions on that ordinance? Hearing none, item 3.3, City Ordinance 22-097 is an ordinance authorizing the execution of a deed easement between PH Urban Renewal LLC, the Planning Board of the City of Jersey City, and the City of Jersey City, affecting Block 13102, Lot 1.03, also known as 25 Christopher Columbus Drive. Items 3.4 and 3.5 were touched on earlier. Item 4.1 was touched on earlier. Item 4.2, City Ordinance 22-091 is an ordinance amending Chapter 254, Property Maintenance, Article 3, Administration, Section 17, Notices and Hearings, establishing a procedure for abatement of conditions affecting health and safety within rental dwellings. You also have the resolution that waives the 20 days on this ordinance as well, which is item 10.3.
We agree to keep it on, Sean.
Thank you for that. I'm coming for you if you don't.
And item 4.3 was touched on earlier. We have 9 speakers listed so far. On to our petitions and communications. Any questions or comments on items 6.1 through 6.8? Hearing none. Officer Communications 7.1. We have no reports of directors. We have our meeting claims and on to our resolutions. So item 10.1, City Resolution 22-780 is a resolution granting a veteran exemption on Block 2301, Lot 25 from local property taxation pursuant to NJSA 54:4-3.30. Item 10.2, City Resolution 22-781 is a resolution authorizing the City of Jersey City to enter into indemnification agreements with various nonprofit and public agencies. Item 10.3, I just touched on. 10.4 through, just to confirm, 10.13 is going to be withdrawn, correct, John? That's the UEZ one?
We'll have further discussion with the council and the EDC.
Thank you. So items 10.4 through 10.21 were touched on earlier. We're going right on to 10.22. Resolution 22-801 is a resolution consenting to the transfer of properties located at Block 25901, Lot 1, Block 24002, and Block 24001, Lot 38, Qualifier X, on the tax maps of the City of Jersey City. We're talking of the addresses of 390-406 Ocean Avenue and 507-523 Ocean Avenue and 525-539 Ocean Avenue.
Yes, got a couple questions with regarding this. This is 3 different parcels and they have 3 different expiration of affordability on it. John, is there any way, is there any reason why we're grouping all of them together? Seeing there, one is past due, it looks like it was up in 6/21, then the other 2 have about 6 more months on it.
Councilman Gilmore, we can take a look at, get back to you on these questions. John McKinney actually prepared this resolution and he's not in today. What we do have, the information that we do have is probably will not answer your question. So he'll be back on Wednesday. So I will refer your question to him and get back to you.
Maybe you can answer the next part. So does the said entity that's taken over, are they savvy in affordable housing? The individuals that's buying or the organization that's going to enter into
Keep going. I'm sorry about that.
That's going to enter into an agreement to purchase these establishments, are they affordable housing qualified to run these affordable housing programs?
From my understanding, it was consented to by the division, the Department of Community Affairs, consented to this transfer. Sorry, I don't know if you can hear me.
You gonna come all the way down, Sean?
Yeah. I'm going to leave it down until we're done with the meeting. I apologize.
Let's move on.
You couldn't get teams up. You got this coming down. You want new staff in your office.
It must be those giants working on my head.
Let's go, Shawnee.
You'll be able to see everybody now. Go ahead.
My understanding, the city is due diligence in making sure this new entity is going to be held accountable for whatever restrictions are remaining on the property. I don't believe it's that long, but they are, from my understanding, they consented to it. And also the community, the Department of Community Affairs had to also consent to this as well.
Also,
Just to state.
I just want to make sure that residents know that this affordability term is coming to its conclusion. Just so no one is, caught blindsided when they go from one thing to another thing and no one knows what hit them.
I can pass that information along to John to make sure.
You said who's responsible?
Oh, John McKinney, the other attorney, and John McKinney.
Okay. All right.
Okay, item 10.23, resolution 22-802 is a resolution renewing professional service agreement with the law firm Caucus and Kuchevsky LLP to represent the city of Jersey City and John Metro in the matter of Lubna Rainier versus the city of Jersey City.
Oh, that's him?
That's him.
First and only lawsuit in the city in 9 years, so.
Pretty impressive.
That's about to say, that's good. You only got one.
We're on the record, guys. Let's move. 10.24, resolution 22-803 is a resolution renewing a professional service agreement with Brock Elcher and LLC to represent Director of Public Safety James Shea in the matter of Kelly Chesler versus the city of Jersey City. And item 10.25, resolution 22-804 is a resolution of the Municipal Council of the City of Jersey City, New Jersey, in the United States of America, approving a sister city agreement with the city of Beit Shemesh in Israel. Items 10.26 through 10.34 were touched on earlier. May I have a motion to adjourn at 6:57 p.m.? I'm going to give that motion to the loudest gentleman, which I believe was Councilperson Rivera, and I'll give the close second to Councilperson Saleh. On the motion to adjourn at 6:57 p.m., all council members present by acclamation, please say aye.
Aye.
We are out of here at 6:57 p.m. Thank you so much. Remember, teamwork makes the dream work. Stay safe, everybody.